This is my skill level. When you know how to read this chart, one glance tells you exactly how I suck. Everyone has a friction circle of their own, properly called a GG chart, because it plots g-force longitudinally, acceleration, braking, and g-force laterally, cornering left, cornering right. Crotch rockets can pull 1.2 g on blastoff, 2 g on the brakes, and 1.5 g sideways. That sets our limits of a motorcycle's ability. Pro riders will be able to hold it there, on the edge of traction all the time, which is fastest. New riders can actually hit 10 g once, so it's safer that they avoid the edge of traction and build a GG chart that resembles a dot. Brave idiots can slam their wrist and let electronic traction control and ABS hit peak accelerations for them, but these weekenders know nothing of cornering form, so they get a vagina. Track day regulars are cross-shaped, well acquainted with the limit on the throttle, on the apex, on the brakes, but holding that edge of traction in transition, trail braking into a corner, driving on exit. That's what separates a messiah from a god. Which brings us to the Yamaha R7. A peculiar motorcycle, but purpose-built for widening the hole in your GG.
I'm sitting atop the Tenere's 689cc twin, and it's just not fast. 6th gear, wide open. My Seabiscuits are glue! Not even enough horsepower to hit its own red line. An awkward first impression in that the motorcycle seems too slow for itself. When Luke's away today, you're stuck with camera caveman. Hopefully you can still see the hollow tail section and rain light off Yamaha's World Superbike. Hear induction through fish gills. Naughty sound sung by Yamaha's MotoGP M1. And feel race ergonomics that would crush Casey Stoner's stones. For a full-size dude, 2 hours of riding raises serious concern for my own Seabiscuits. Check out the headlight. A single bulb does high and low duty, so Yamaha could suck it invisibly deep in the intake. I've never seen such a paddock pure setup, yet so civilian a motor.
Now you know how the R7 is peculiar. Let's learn how it's a GG genius. Riders come up short on acceleration in two ways. They either buy a supercomputer with traction control and never learn, or buy a monster without and never master.
But the R7 has no TC, and it has no horsepower. Just chubby S22s you'll never spin, and an upshifter add-on that's cheaper than Netflix. I'm not wasting time on clutching, and I'm nailing acceleration.
ABS is an EU requirement, so any commie can stomp their booties into peak braking force.
Yet riders still fail to hit their GG limit by tripping over downshifts. And too much clutch and your coasting engine robs deceleration. Too little clutch and lost deceleration is the least of your concerns. So Yamaha gave the R7 something never seen on a CP2, the assisted slipper. Blink the gears, and the slipper rev matches for me. Now my engine's pneumatic drag spends 99% of its time pulling on the ground. Now we're maximizing deceleration.
Trail braking is like cricket. It confuses most people into not trying. Yet we all know to hit the brakes before a corner, so just trail off them while adding cornering force. A top rack rider will be perfectly in sync, so only when asking for peak cornering traction are the brakes totally released. That's all trail braking is, and it's how we flesh out our GG transition. The pitfall is brakes, 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 release, then lean. Only the 1% do brakes, 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 release as you lean. Brakes, 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 release as you lean. Trail braking.
But how does one shed exactly as much longitudinal force as they add lateral force?
Let too much brakes go and you ask too little of your tires. Let too little brakes go and you ask too much. It's a game of lever feel. And again, Yamaha smashes the piggy bank for an unheard of Brembo radial master. See, axial setups push sideways. And some force goes into braking, some force goes into bending, and it's impossible to judge how much of each. Whereas radial pushes straight down. All my hand pressure direct to the rotors.
So it's perceptible to match brake subtraction with lean addition, perfecting the GG trail brake.
Hitting peak cornering G is easy. You just keep leaning. But like sex in a kayak, your climax will be millimeters from disaster. We can safeguard our escapades with springs. And say I have 5 inches of travel, but a wise man knows static sag kills a third. And a wise man always carries a spare tire, which moves us to half. Add 1.5 Gs of cornering force, and we're down to a quarter. So I have 1.25 inches left to eat bumps, but I'm leaned at 45 degrees. Trigonometry is a bitch that says less than 1 inch of pavement rise will bottom the forks, push the tire. Such is the dangerous reality of an MT-07 with unadjustable forks. I was concerned about the R7 sharing that platform. Yet again, the engineers diverged to dialable preload, stiffenable compression damping, and safer corners. Of course, the old school way to decrease risk is simply to not lean the bike as low.
In practice, to lean your body instead. And I've never had an easier time hanging off a bike because I've never sat one so narrow. This is the slimmest sporty in the lineup, slimmer even than the Wii R3, making it the easiest bike to steer to hit peak cornering force. Woohoo!
Nailing corner exits is the photo negative of trail braking. Introduce as much throttle force as you take away lean. That's all it takes to stay on the edge of our GG diagram, in the same way that crossing a tightrope just requires riding straight. I mean, yes, but can anyone actually balance lateral force subtracted with longitudinal force added? The problem is that motorcycles make various power at various RPM. Even a robotic roll-on will sometimes be too little, sometimes too much. Consider this R6 dyno. At 6K, it's too slow to be relevant. At 10K, it's impossibly steep. Only between 11 and 14,000 does the torque plateau and the horsepower resemble linearity, but only a pro can work the gear lever fast enough to stay in that manageable piece of curve. But again, the R7 is exceptional. It makes its peak torque from 2200 RPM all the way to 9000. It makes more power and more linear power than an R6 from its idle to its redline.
Gear selection doesn't matter. I can toddle into this hairpin in fourth and still make a steady roll-on, creating a steady increase in power, matching the corner to achieve maximum exit force. Woohoo!
And with that, we ride the perfect GG chart. If you decide to get quite serious about riding, this is how to see your own friction circle. And click the link below and order a Dual Electronics XGPS 150. Pair that to your smartphone and use Harry's Lap Timer app to download your GG chart. It's utterly unnecessary for non-racers, but utterly fascinating.